TBTL Week in Review.
Everyone, TBTL Employee Numero Uno, Jon Sklaroff here with this week's edition of the Week in Review. I'm not sure what number we're on. Might be number 9. Number 10 is this double digits. I'm not even sure. It's in the email that you saw when you got this. So don't even worry about, I now see that Benny's in my frame. Hey, Benny, he's whatever. He's in his chair. He doesn't care. Anyway, this week's Week in Review, we have a really special guest, longtime friend of the show, one of our legalese. That's that's a weird thing. I don't know. It's like weird when you say it out of context. One of our attorneys at law from Making Way via New Hampshire. It's Dani Esquire, right? I see you have Dani in your little name thing, ESQ Esquire. Can I ask you a totally dumb question? What's Esquire mean? Like that's Latin, right? Am I putting you on the spot here? You can tell me no. You can say nope.
So I looked it up and it says a title appended to a lawyer's surname, or historical, a young nobleman who, in training for knighthood, acted as an attendant to a knight. So
Like
does that help?
A squire.
Squire.
Yeah.
So I guess it would be like a squire of letters. A squire of letters, I guess.
There you go. Boom. That's it. Put it down right in the books. It's legal. It's
I was
law.
like, as soon as you start going down that road, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm sure I've looked it up a million times.
Yeah, and I apologize putting you on the spot like that. I realize I'm kind of like Michael Scott, where I just start saying words and I don't know where I'm going until I get to the end. Is that quote? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Dani, welcome. Thank you so much for doing this. You are a longtime listener of the show, a big fan of the show. I know, folks, if you're active on, people are watching or active on Slack, they've probably come across you. Like, you're very engaged in the community, which, as somebody who's working with people in the community all the time, like, I love to see that. It's really cool to see. So, like, tell me, before we kind of get into this week's happenings, like, what was the thing that got you hooked on TBTL? Or like, what was the kind of, was there like a topic or an episode? Yeah. Oh, you got something, you know it.
No, the main opposite answer is I have no idea. I found TBTL through Wait, and first, I didn't finish the first episode I listened to. I was like, I don't really get it. But I eventually went back, I think, because I had a crappy job. Yeah, I guess it was around the time I was in law school, probably. So I had a day job that I didn't like, and I was just looking for anything to distract me. And so I think I was just looking for more podcasts. So at some point I gave it another shot, and then I just never stopped listening.
And that was it.
Yeah.
I'm very similar, where I've kind of told variations of this before. I'll just give the short story is, when I started working at APM, I'm like, I'm going to know everything we make. And I started listening to TBTL, and like 20 minutes in, I'm like, nope, I don't need to know everything we make, because it was just, everything was over my head. And then similarly, like a while later, I'm like, I was looking for podcasts, and I turned it on. I'm like, you know what? I can dig this. And same thing, just like from there. So yeah.
And if my memory is correct, the episode I started listening to, they had a guest on. And it wasn't like a famous person or something, but it didn't click for me. So I think probably because it was not the normal format, that probably had a lot to do with it. But
that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. It's like, once you heard it in its like a purest form, I don't know if that's the right expression. All these weird things. I don't feel like my camera's not cutting out. All these weird things I'm saying, these dead expressions, I'm going to edit this in post, or like Andrew, not actually do that, because that's work and effort, and I don't necessarily have all those video skills. So you're going to come across great. I'm going to come across as a rambling mess, and it's going to be good. Yeah, no, there's no ads. There's no TBTL ads. On that note, though, let's talk about TBTL. This is the Week in Review, where, of course, typically a guest comes on, talks to Luke and or Andrew about the things that they talked about on air this week. They're not here. I'm here. So I guess I'll act as their proxy, legal word, right? Points for that. Yes. I will be the TBTL proxy. So I can't like answer questions if there's anything you have about like what their thoughts were about specific subjects, but I'm happy.
This is almost better, because what are the chances they're gonna watch this and listen to this? So I can even be,
you know what, we're gonna shit talk the hell out of them right now. Friggin' Luke, friggin' Andrew, these friggin' guys. No, they might. Andrew, let's be honest, Andrew, solid 50-50. Luke, I don't think he knows
Not
how to
gonna
get the
happen.
video links, like even though they're emailed to him, but that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. So like, let's start off. Like, what are some of the things? What's one of the things that caught your ear this week?
So okay, I have a couple of things. So there was
Yeah.
Luke was talking about like, or they were both talking about like, oh, because Andrew had gone out and taken a lift home, and
Mhm.
he got a message like the next day, like he's like, oh my god, I forgot to tip or something.
Yes.
I don't
Yeah.
think he forgot to tip, because so I don't use, now that I'm back in New Hampshire, I don't use
Uh-huh.
Lyft or Uber that often because
Sure.
you have to drive everywhere here.
Right. More
And
rural places. Yeah.
I mean, oh, funny story about that. Andrew calling Concord rural is hysterical to me. It's clearly someone who really doesn't. I mean, he says he grew up in the country, but to call
Mhm.
Concord, New Hampshire rural is ridiculous. At most, some of it is suburbia, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Is it like would it be like Boston suburbia or itself suburbia? Because it's too far north for that, right?
no, it of itself suburbia. Yeah,
Of itself
it's
suburbia. Okay. Okay. Okay.
yeah. I mean, it has a real downtown. It has
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
But anyways, so but I was at the 4000th episode in
Mhm.
Seattle,
Yep.
um, which I didn't get to meet either Luke or Andrew, but that's okay. um, and so I took a lift a couple times there, and I know I tipped because I was absolutely not drinking because I was so tired. I knew if I
You
had a
had like
drink,
a whirlwind. Like we were communicating. Can you tell for people like Danny's in New Hampshire, 4000th episode in Seattle. Like
yeah,
like unless you like other than coming from Miami, like literally the furthest you could have been.
yeah.
And I remember you were reaching out. We were communicating a little bit beforehand. Like before we get into the tipping, I know tangent TBTL. People, you'll love this. So tell people the commitment that you put into this. Like
Well,
this
so
is.
I had just taken a week off work, just my
Mhm.
normal summer vacation. And so I knew I couldn't take any time off. And I was looking because there was speculation between the tens that it
Mhm.
might actually happen like 4th of July weekend. And I was looking at the price airfare, and like that was just going to be outrageous. And so I kind
Yeah.
of like put it out of my head. I'm not going. It's not a big deal. And then like the weekend before, I was getting a lot of FOMO. And so I just was looking again. I'm like, well, they're actually not that bad. And I found one that I would leave Saturday morning and come back Sunday afternoon. I'm like, but it's out of Boston. And anyone who knows Boston right now, like Logan's having some issues because they closed the Sumner Tunnel for the whole summer, which is that's how you get out of Logan. So it was like, and there is a bus from my town, my city in New Hampshire to Logan, but I would have to leave Nashua, which is where I live, at like 4 a.m, and the buses hadn't started running. And so I was like, can't do it. So the person I'm seeing, he's committed. It's like, I'll definitely drive you. You have to go. You talk about them all the time. You're going. And then, so I booked the tickets. I'm like, all right, you're going to pick me. You're going to drive me there. And you're going to pick me up. Not paying for parking. It's great. He canceled and said, I'll pay for your parking instead. Because
But you know what? Like that's yeah.
yeah.
So that's
So I
redeemable,
left.
right?
Yeah, I mean, but I was, it is what it
Kind of.
is. So I
Yeah.
left. So I left my house at like 4 a.m,
Uh-huh.
Saturday, which I hadn't slept very well because I was like, I need to not oversleep.
Yeah.
Flew out there. I landed, I think at like 1 o'clock. I was probably at my hotel at 1 or 1:30. And I'm like,
West Coast
I'm
time
trying
now.
to West Coast
Yeah.
time. So it
Yeah.
was,
Going from east to west.
7 p.m. It was 7 p.m. my time,
Yeah.
or East Coast time. And so like I tried to cat nap, and I'm a horrible napper. I'm so jealous of people who can nap. I just can't. Um, and then like I go to the pre-party thing, and
Mhm.
go to the show. It's great. I got to meet people that I've talked to on Slack, or at TBTL Book Club,
Mhm.
and other things. And so that was great. And I'm just like, but I was probably, anyone who met me probably thinks I'm a weirdo because I was so zoned out the
No.
entire time. I was like, yep, yep. I think I had people like telling me that they would throw things at me in the theater if they saw me falling asleep at the show because I was like so out of it. And I went to the after party for a little
Intense.
bit.
Yeah.
Tense, yes.
No, I'm saying
So I
that's
did
like
go,
the way. Yeah.
so I did
Sorry, go
go to
on.
the after party. I did go to the after party, and I stayed for as long as I could before I'm like, I just got to get out of here. I can't,
Mhm.
because I was, I'm happy to learn that I would not have met Andrew because he didn't go. I don't think.
Mhm.
So I didn't
Yeah.
miss that, and at least I had met Luke once before because I went to the Vaniversary show, um,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
in 20. I guess that was
That's
2018.
pre-COVID. Yeah.
It was
I mean, obviously
2018.
pre-COVID.
I
Yeah.
only know that because I had just started at the firm I'm at now a few months before that. So I
Okay.
know exactly when it was because I didn't tell people that I was flying to Seattle to go see a podcast live because I um but yeah, so it was good. It was fun.
Mhm.
Next time I get out there, I hope I can stay for a little longer because I
Sure.
literally got up the next day and took the
I
train back to the light rail back and left.
I was just so impressed. Like I said, like we were exchanging some emails beforehand, and then I think I saw you very briefly, like on the merch
Yeah.
line or something. You came down,
Yep.
right? And it's like, oh, but there was like chaos.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but I'm really glad you made it, and I hope you
Mhm.
enjoyed the show.
I
And I
did.
think this is just a message to anyone that's like, oh, I can't make a live event. It's like, can't you? No, I'm just kidding. I'm
Well,
not gonna
no,
shame
it's
anyone
and
else. I'm
and
just
honestly, if the tickets had been more expensive, I would the flight itself, I would not have
sure,
come. It
of course.
just
I'm just
I found a flight um on an airline I'd never even heard of.
hmm.
So I don't remember what it
Well,
was.
I'm glad you made it there, and
But yeah.
made it through and got back home safely. And anyway, so going
Yeah.
back, so let's talk about Lyft
So
tipping conspiracies because I'm all
so when
on
I
board on.
was so
Yeah.
I was in Seattle. So I took a lift back from the show or from the
Mhm.
after party. I took a lift back to my hotel and um I know I tipped because I always tip. And the next day I get a text asking if I wanted to tip the driver. And so I'm like,
Interesting.
no way. I know I
Yeah.
tipped because I always tend to tip more than I feel comfortable tipping because,
Hmm.
that's just kind of even though like in my head I'm like, was it really worth an extra dollar? I mean, I have a hard time tipping just like 20% of a $10 ride. I'm like, I'm giving more than $1. I'm not doing it that way.
Right.
But
Right.
um
Yeah.
So I know I had tipped and I pulled up my receipt to confirm I had tipped. So I think that that's just, I mean, if hopefully all the money goes to the driver so they don't care, but
Yeah.
I personally think that's a conspiracy. But again, this is based on one Lyft ride. So
So the thing with the Lyft tipping that got to me, now I'm like you, I'm like, I feel like it's weird to like not tip at least this much. Like it's always like a weird vibe or feeling. But they ask you if you want tip while the ride is happening. Like if you're watching the app, it's like, oh, give a tip. And I'm like, I haven't gotten to my destination yet. I don't know if something's
right.
gonna happen. And I don't mean something like an accident or something like really nefarious. But I don't for whatever reason, you maybe feel like it's not the best ride you've ever had or whatever it is. It's just like to me that seems like an odd thing. Like you're not at a restaurant and like in the middle of your soup and the waiter comes over and is like, "Oh, would you like to tip?" That's something that doesn't happen. So I feel like Lyft,
Right.
there's definitely a lot of oddities that happen around that. Um, I th- I like to believe your theory though because I don't think Andrew's the kind of person, even if he is quote unquote into his cups, I think he would tip regardless. So that is a uh unusual thing, I think. Um,
Yeah. And I just double checked again and
again,
I
there's
found my receipt. And
I
I did
listen,
find
I
my
believe you.
receipt.
I believed you. I didn't think that you would be pulling one over on us, but I like this. I like this theory that is Lyft trying to maximize tipping. Hopefully, it's actually going to the drivers. Uh, other than
Oh,
yeah. Sorry, go on.
no, I was seeing if I could find the text message too, where they or whatever the message came in. Anyways, it was just
Other than tip
um
conspiracies, which
so that's
I
that
mean,
was
as
something.
far as like conspiracies in the world, it's pretty low stakes, I
Mm.
guess. What's something else that caught your ear this week on the show?
This is just something that we don't have to spend any time on this because I know you're a Yankees fan. So, but
Okay. Yeah, no, we're gonna spend all the time on this now. Let's dig in.
well, so here's my problem with the whole idea
Yeah.
that oh, Boston always wins. Boston always wins. Like they're sick of it.
Uh-huh.
It's like
Yeah.
None of those teams won until I was a senior in high school. So my entire life, all of the local teams were losers until my entire childhood, rather.
Yeah.
And I went and I looked it up to make sure that I wasn't forgetting it. But so my senior year of high school was when the Patriots won. So from won their first one with that was the I think that was the game that
beating the Rams. Yeah.
Wasn't that this? I thought that was the same season that Bledsoe got injured, but maybe that was the season after. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, it was that year because it was the Jets were the reason Bledsoe got injured. There was a late hit by the Jets linebacker Mo Lewis on Drew Bledsoe, which like seriously injured him. It was like a rib punctured a lung. It's like something dangerous. Thankfully, he was
broke
okay.
His leg. Or no, that was in college. In college, my college star quarterback broke their leg at the bowl game because I was in the marching band in college, and so we went to the bowl game.
I remember very definitively Bledsoe got hurt because of dirty play by the New York Jets, and then Tom Brady came in, and the rest is history, whatever. But if you were in high school when that happened, and man, yeah, if you like sports talk, we'll try and minimize this. If you don't like sports talk, I should say, but like the Celtics in the '80s were
right. But we weren't a basketball family, so.
Oh. Okay, all right.
but again, it wasn't. But like, even in the '80s, so I started first grade in '91. So it's it wasn't like
it was like you were maybe aware there were an entity, but wasn't a thing you were paying attention to.
Right.
That's fair. I definitely my New York bias comes out in this where I'm in agreement. It's like even you're right. You're totally right. It was like 2001 on where it's like the Patriots, the Red Sox, the Bruins, like the Celtics were all winning championships since the turn of the century or whatever, the turn of the millennium.
Yeah.
And so like you're right, it's like recent history. I don't know why I put that in quotes. Right. That's like a real thing. But they've won like 20 titles in the last 20 years or so. I mean, maybe that's a little bit of exaggeration. So as a New York fan, I'm not as upset about it. A Seattle fan, I could see being a little more agitated about people like,
So I do have a funny story. So there, my mom never really watched football until I went to college, and so I went to Boston College, and so they would come to at least one game. Go Eagles. My senior is when they switched to the AFC, and I think have sucked since then. But when they were in the Big East, they were a decent team.
Yeah.
And so my mom started getting into football then, and then she got really into football when the Patriots seemed to win all the time. And so the year they lost to, I can't remember which one that was, but she threw a big party. It was, yes, I think it was the Giants. She threw a Super Bowl party, and she'd never thrown a football party ever. And so she, and because the Patriots had been winning a lot, or anytime they went to Super Bowl, they won. So she's like, oh, I'm going to throw a party. She got all these decorations. She had like all the bracket from the playoffs with all the football helmets and going down. And, she was so excited, and she lost. And she's like, well, what was the point of this? Like, she just didn't understand.
She didn't know what it was like.
She didn't understand. She's like, the Patriots don't lose. And then a similar thing I don't know if this was everywhere, but in New England, there are a couple of seasons where if the Patriots won their game on Sunday, your coffee at was free the next day.
I think that's a New England thing because I don't ever remember that anywhere I live that being a thing.
Yeah, I didn't know if we did it for other cities. So but I remember like one day there was a Monday morning, and my coworker comes to my office, and she's like, I had to pay for my coffee this morning. She didn't understand. She was like, why did I have to pay for my coffee this morning? Because
it's Monday. It's free coffee day.
Free coffee day. That was her understanding. It was free coffee day. And she was so confused. So those are my Patriot stories about, I get it. There was a long time where they were winning a lot.
I will say this, and we'll move on from sports talk after this, but this is actually a really sweet story, I think. And this is the one nice thing I'll ever say about the Patriots, and it's on record here. And I will never say, like, if you're watching this and you're hearing me, like, don't record this, me saying this.
You're recording this.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the recording. No. So I a really good friend, a former coworker of mine, his wife, who is somebody I was really close to, also very tragically passed away a handful of years ago, in an accident, and it was terrible. But he was from the Boston area and big Patriots fan, and it was several months before the Super Bowl that this happened. That was the Super Bowl the Patriots came back to win against the Falcons, the 28-3 Super Bowl, right? Very famously,
Yes.
the Patriots were losing like the 23, I think it was like the midway through the third quarter. They come back and win. And this friend who was already kind of like a homebody, like a very reserved kind of guy, I convinced him to come to the bar and watch the game with me. I'm like, hey man, your Patriots are in the Super Bowl. Come on, like just because I've been, several months at this point. Like you need to get out of the house, kind of thing. And so he reluctantly came, and the whole time the Patriots are losing and losing pretty big. And it was like, he wasn't like the biggest sports fan, so it wasn't like a huge down the dumps thing. It was kind of like, oh, bummer. And then they start coming back, and like for that hour that the Patriots came back and won, it was the happiest I've seen him since the accident, And we're like in the bar and we're hugging, and there's like a few other Patriots fans around us, but like my friend had this moment, like just like a brief, like, what a historic Super Bowl. My team did this thing, like and it was, and then, so I will give Tom Brady and the Patriots credit for that, making my friend like have that moment of like, I can be happy for a few minutes and it's okay. And anyway, that's the one thing I'll ever appreciate the Patriots for, is giving him that moment. Other than that, screw Boston. Okay, let's move on for sports. Let's. I mean, lovely city, great seafood, great sights, great history, but Boston sports, whatever. We're moving on.
Okay.
We got a few more minutes left here, Dani. So let's kind of wrap this up. If there's anything else maybe you might have that stood out to you this week, there were some interesting things. There was like, the fake. The TikTok steakhouse was funny. Was a hell of a story. The fireworks made me have a lot of feelings as somebody with dogs. I don't know what is there anything that like you had an opinion or thought on that you share?
Yeah. I disagree with him completely about the Senate dress code thing. I guess I'll say that.
Oh yeah,
me
too.
That
Me too.
bothered me.
Please go on. Please go
on. Because I'm in a profession where it's suits are the norm, but we a lot of it's hard as a woman to find suits that are comfortable and that you like the way you look in them. This might look like a suit, but this is a sweatshirt, and I wore it to court today because I'm like, screw it. It looks kind of like a suit, but it's a sweatshirt.
Yeah, I thought you were wearing a suit jacket for sure. Seriously, yeah.
And it's just there was this one horrible judge who actually sat in Providence, Rhode Island, where I also practice in. Well, I'm technically not active in Rhode Island, but I was licensed in Rhode Island. I am licensed in Rhode Island. I remember going to court, and the judge who was that judge usually sat in Kent County Courthouse, and instead they were in Providence that day. And I had an attorney who had a complete meltdown and freaked out. It's like, I cannot go before that judge. I cannot go before that judge because I'm not wearing nylons. And it was like August. It's disgustingly hot. Court's not air conditioned. I don't blame her for not wearing nylons.
But the judge had this expectation. Yeah.
That judge. And she's like, and this judge will lose his shit on me. And so so I was talking to her, like, well, just go find opposing counsel, see if you can do a continuance. And she was just covering for someone else. She wasn't even planning on being in court that day. And it was just like, so like knowing that there are judges like that who are just, and this judge in particular, he ended up getting just removed from the court for a lot of reasons, but he was horrible to women. And he had a bad track record. But it's just like things like that, or I'm like, she's wearing a perfectly nice dress. She doesn't have a blazer on, but whatever, it doesn't matter. And so anything, dress code things really bother me when people are really strict about things like that. I think a lot of it is, class-based too. As long as you're presentable and you're not, wearing, I don't know, it just bothers me. So that was one of the things that I did completely disagree. I think, they just, both of them have some conservative upbringings that's probably, they can't let go. So.
Yeah, I think one of the in some defense of the boys, because I guess that's again I'm the proxy here, right? So I think part of the conversation, but I totally first of all totally agree with you and
Yeah.
like totally understand that obviously, and like as a guy, what women like watching my wife sometimes fight with herself about what she's gonna wear to work or whatever. Like I get it. Like I don't get it, but I can understand it,
Yeah.
right? I think Andrew, I think it was, who's made the point of like, not to get too political, not to make this a political space, but
Right.
like it's gonna be a thing that the right's gonna latch onto and make part of the culture
Right.
war if they're doing this because of Fetterman, or it's like that just becomes like
Yeah.
another thing. And my response to that's like, yeah, I get that, where it's like you don't want to give me
Right.
more bait or ammo to like stir up the base over like. But if it's not John Fetterman wearing a hoodie, it's gonna be insert thing here. It's
Right.
gas oven, gas ranges. It's like the most like menial, stupid stuff. So it's like,
And
yeah, like I get it. Like this is a thing for like for Susan Collins, who I have a lot of opinions about Susan Collins because she and
don't
I
get me started.
we went to the same alma mater, or same university, right? We share an alma mater, and I have a lot of opinions. That's another week in review or year in review. I have so many thoughts. I'm sure, right? You're close to her physically, like location wise there. So yeah, anyway, like she's gonna get mad about some BS anyway. So like,
Right.
who cares? Who cares? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Republicans could try maybe passing a budget or, not shutting down the government. Maybe that's more important to worry about right now. I don't know. Thoughts?
On that happy note, let's not disagreeing at all. Give me one fun thing. Do you have anything fun on the agenda for the weekend before we sign off? Or
It
it's
is
kind of
it's my nephew's 3rd birthday. Actually, his birthday
yes,
was yesterday or today.
happy belated birth, happy Blur's Day.
Yes, I didn't call it in. Sorry. And so I'll be going to a 3-year-old's birthday party tomorrow, and so
Fun, whole family, all the friends, the kids.
yeah,
Great time, right?
yeah, that's what you could.
Good. That is an awesome thing to do for the weekend. I hope you have a wonderful time at the party, Dani, and a relaxing weekend, not thinking about dress codes. And
And my earbud batteries just started beeping, so it's probably good that
it
we're
was good
wrapping
timing.
up.
Great. On that note, I'm going to say thank you, Dani, so much for being here. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun chatting with you. Thank you to everyone who's watching this. If you're getting this, you're a supporter of the show, and we're so thankful. And I think officially now the tag I have to say when signing off is, yes, we spelled it that way on purpose. So thanks for watching this week's Week in Review. And my mouse is buried. Oh, there it is. Everything, all the technology is failing. It's time to go. Have a great weekend, y'all. Thanks so much for your support. Bye.